What are the 6 phases of ascension to 5D? This I'm going to share with you is a proven 6-step process to a permanent 5D shift. How to permanently transform your 3D limited, trapped in the matrix self into your 5D higher self. Hi, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard, and this is the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel. And I'm going to be sharing with you some massive changes that have been going on with me. I am continuing to do my work with my higher self in 5D, and I've been working, of course, with my ET friends who reside in higher dimensions. There's so many things that have been going on with me that I don't share on the channel because, to be quite frank, I haven't been able to comprehend it myself. I have these experiences that I don't mentally understand, but then what ends up happening is that over time, my reality begins to shift. My physical body is shifting rapidly. And bear in mind, I've been doing Qigong, meditation, working with the Maoshan heart-mind energy for decades. And that definitely shifted me up, to a level where I was kind of in a state between 3D and 5D, and it made things uncomfortable. Now I understand what was happening. But what has happened now is that I'm assuming 5D energies are coming into my body and shifting me in all kinds of ways, but one of the ways is my physical body is transforming. I could go into I have greater physical stamina. I have, greater emotional well-being. I'm able to do things that, I was starting to get ready to go. I'm starting to get older. I won't be able to do that. And I was in pretty good shape. I'm able to do even more than I was doing before. And there's a healing and a regeneration that's happening at a much faster pace within my body. And I believe what's happening is that my DNA might be altering and shifting. Anyway, time will tell, and of course I'll share more with you, but I'm more interested in giving this technology to you. And I promise you that's what I do on my channel. I'm still learning and growing and experimenting, and as soon as I learn something, I come back and I teach you. So I want to share with you the first 6 phases that are necessary in order to achieve the 5D shift. Now, you should not be waiting around for 5D to show up. As you've been on my channel, lately, it is coming. The 5D shift has already begun. That is definitely the case. But whether or not you wait around for it, or whether you get on, the front seat of the train and you are one of the people who are the first, among the first in the planet to shift, that is completely up to you. So that's what I am making available to you. I believe that is what is happening to me, and I want to share that with you. And what's happening, not only am I shifting physically, emotionally, psychologically, mentally, but I'm also shifting in terms of my connection to reality, and my reality itself is beginning to shift. And so you will benefit by being a part of that, by making the decision to be a part of that shift. And it's not an intellectual one. It's not sitting around thinking. It's much more than that. Here's the thing. Like if you listen to people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, a guy who healed himself through meditation, he learned how to completely heal a destroyed spine. And it was through that he became aware of tapping into the higher dimensional states, getting out of the 3-dimensional state and literally downloading from the quantum state the 5D blueprint of your perfect self, downloading it into your 3D self. And that's what we're talking about here. So in order to do that, you have to change. You have to change. You have to become a different person. Because in the 3D, everything you are is based on your memory of who you think you are and the actions that you take based on that. And so in order to live in 3D, when you download, when you become an avatar, literally, when you incarnate into your 3D body, you have to take on a 3D identity. And that 3D identity has a history. And so that history is what determines what you do. It determines how you act, how you react. Your actions and your reactions create emotions within your body. The emotions within your body then literally program your physical body in all of the ways that it is. So when we're talking about physical illness, physical limitations, those are programs that you continuously pour through your body and your nervous system as a result of the thoughts, feelings, and actions that you partake in. Now, you think in the 3D, you think you are choosing to take those actions, to have those emotions, to have those reactions. But you don't have any choice over that in the third dimension. This is why it's almost impossible for anybody to make any real change, because they sit around and think about what they want, and but you don't have the power to actually do different things. So the way that you change your nervous system, the way that you change your thoughts, and the way that you change your emotions is by taking actions that change the definition of who you are. That involves having different attitudes. That involves having different assumptions about what you believe reality is, and then acting on those new assumptions. Knowing how to take actions that are completely, totally contrary to what your thoughts and your feelings and even your nervous system is telling you. Because bear in mind, your thoughts, your feelings, and your nervous system, again, are coming from a script. You're a 5D being. You are unlimited. You are infinite. You are eternal. You are omniscient. But in order to be in 3D, you have to limit that, and that is done by the story that you tell yourself. So what is happening now is that the Earth is shifting. It has already started. The process has already begun. This last full moon that we just went through, huge, massive shifts on an energetic level. It's true that the majority of humans aren't aware of it yet, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. I can tell you for myself that this past full moon was huge. I'm not even aware of how huge the shift was for me personally. But for the world, the shift began, and it's beginning to move out. And trust me, from now on, watch what happens from this point in time onward, and come back and tell me if the world didn't massively shift right now. Watch. So it's true that the majority of people aren't consciously aware of the shift. They're continuing to try and live the way that they did. But even if you look in what's going on, just flip on YouTube. I mean, the massive mental awareness shift that's going on. People are waking up like popcorn. The narrative is completely falling apart. Watch what's going to happen here. Because unless there's something that I'm not intuiting, which is perfectly possible, unless there's something that I don't see that's coming, the deep state is going to now react very strongly and work very hard to distract you, probably with some worldwide event like a war or UFOs, or if they'll throw in a new pandemic or something like that. I'm not wishing any of that, but watch. They're thinking about how to create some new worldwide distraction, because the awakening is inevitable. It cannot be changed. All right, so let's get into the 6 phases. You must completely change yourself on the deepest level, which will change your physical body, your nervous system, and allow you the ability to download into your present mind, your present psyche, your present body, the quantum perfect state that is you. So are you ready? Let's get started. So the 6 phases. Number 1, you identify limiting 3D false ego traps in your psyche. Identify limiting 3D false ego traps in your psyche. All right, so I have bad news for you. There's good news coming, but first I have to give you the bad news. The bad news is you cannot change yourself in the 3rd dimension. I just got through saying the only way to shift into your higher 5D self is that you must completely change everything about you, your energy, your cells, your DNA. You're going to have to change the way that you think, the way that you react, the things that you believe. But guess what? That is impossible to do in the 3rd dimension. This is, again, why the law of attraction doesn't really work. Because the law of attraction assumes that the 3rd dimension is something that's happening right now, that the 3rd dimension flows to you, you make yourself ready, and you get yourself in the right headspace, and then good things come to you. That's not how the 3rd dimension works. The 3rd dimension is a memory. I'm getting huge jolts from my friends as I say this. Your 3rd dimensional reality has already happened. It's, as I've said numerous times before, it's like watching a video. Imagine trying, if you've watched videos that you really like and there's that one part, and every time you watch it, you try and change it, where the person dies or the bad thing happens, and you want to change it. It never changes. Never changes. George Foreman, when he lost to Muhammad Ali, every time he watches the replay of the fight, he says, I'm always hoping that this time I'll win. That's too late. It's already been recorded on videotape and you're just watching a replay of it. That's what happens. Your brain is a chronometer. The only thing your brain is capable of doing is recording events after the fact. Your brain records the event, plays it back for you. You think you're experiencing it in the here and now, but you're not. So there's no way to watch something that has just happened and then change it. Can't do it. You have to go beyond the 3D. You have to go into the quantum state, into the 5D state, and from there you can make decisions about what you want to manifest. But once you've manifested it, it's over. And 3D is just simply living out the manifestation that has already happened and been recorded in your body. Now, your emotions and your thoughts react to what you've just experienced. Now, you also are pre-programmed by your history. I was born here, my parents did that, I grew up poor, I grew up privileged, I grew up this, here are my limitations, poor me, or I'm so great, or I'm so horrible. Whatever those things are, that's the story. Something happens, you react based on your story. You're not reacting to what's actually happening. You're reacting to the story. I shared in one of my videos recently that, I've been on the planet for a while, and I've had a lot of relationships, and there's been a few relationships where women have left me because I was too nice to them, because I treated them too well. They couldn't handle being loved. They couldn't tolerate it. They wanted somebody to abuse them. That comes from their history. And so they respond negatively to someone who doesn't follow the story. The storyline in their head was that abuse equals love. So they want love. Everybody wants love. And so they go after what they think they're looking for. And this is why you hear people say, I always attract the wrong people. And no matter how hard I try, it's because of the program. You've got an unconscious program, if you're one of those people, that says love equals abuse. So when somebody comes along that doesn't fit that, and they actually, they do the opposite, they treat you well, they treat you with love and kindness and respect, then your story is going to go, that person is not loving me, and you will respond negatively. You'll start fights with them. You'll come up with crazy things in your mind about what they're doing to you, how they're lying to you, because it doesn't fit with the program. You go along and some a-hole treats you like crap and abuses you and neglects you, and all of a sudden you can't get enough of the guy. It's because your program tells you that. That's just one example. So in the 3D, you can't simply just choose for things to be different because they've already happened. Your emotions are not something that you can manipulate and play with. I'm not saying that you don't have a responsibility to check your attitude. You do. But the idea that you can shift, if you're in a state, for instance, let's say talking about money, talking about the what do you call it? The law of attraction. They'll tell you if you think positively about money, then that positive feeling will make money attracted to you and money will flow to you, right? But who are the people who look at this? These are people who don't have money, who have a bad connection to wealth and prosperity, and they don't believe they deserve it on an unconscious level. Consciously, they really want it, but unconsciously, they're programmed to be poor and miserable. So what happens when you try and rustle up an emotion to feel good about money? The unconscious mind vetoes it, even if it were true that you could attract money with your emotion. But the truth is, emotion is a reaction to the story. That's it. So in order to change the emotional reaction, you have to change the story. You can't change the story after it's been recorded. You can't watch a movie that's already been filmed and change the movie. It's too late. The film's been written and filmed, and that's it. That's your third dimension. So the bad news is you can't choose to change your world from 3D. You have to go beyond it. You have to awaken to the fact that you are living in a three-dimensional holographic projection. And when you become aware of that, then you become aware that you'll have to go beyond that. But here's the thing. Your nervous system, your emotions, and your thoughts are all designed to keep you in the movie. I was an actor for years, you know that. I stage, film, TV, obviously not a lot because you'd know who I was. In order to play a part, you have to have, like method actors, they get emotionally connected. And the way they do that is they create a backstory. Then they invest in that backstory. They replay it. I am this, I am that, my parents did this. And they get emotionally involved, and then that backstory creates a template for their emotional reactions. They go on stage, and the other actor does something, that they weren't expecting, or delivers a line in a way they weren't expecting. But they're going to have a genuine reaction as you, as the audience member, go, "Oh my God, the acting is so great." Well, it's because in that moment they're really operating from the backstory of that character, which creates an emotion, creates a thought. Now, the actor can turn that on and off whenever he wants. So you have to understand you're an actor in a 3D play. And, if you are so wrapped up in your character that you don't know that you're in a production, then you won't be able to turn it off. And unfortunately, that is the case. That's been the case with me. That's just the nature of being in the 3D. But we're moving into a state now, this transformation is bringing people the ability to go, wait a second, that's not who I am. I was programmed to think like that. So you have to become conscious of that if you want to be able to shift out of the limitation of 3D in order to be able to change. So that's number one. Identifying limiting 3D false ego traps in your psyche. Number two, overcoming 3D false ego survival mechanisms. Now here, what happens is you become aware. You become aware that you're nuts, that you are trapped in a 3D movie that's already happened, and you think what's this false reality is real. You're thinking this memory is real. It's not. It's a memory. You're playing a character. So you have to be willing to accept the fact that your understanding of higher dimensions is false. Your understanding of who you are is false. And just sit with that and realize that you need to have an awakening, that you need to let go of this insanity. But you first have to become aware. You have to detach yourself from it. So you detach yourself from the storyline. In other words, the storyline that you have, just me telling you, it's a storyline and you have to let go of it, that's not going to do anything. Because your storyline is your survival. Just like, you've seen, again, talking about actors on stage, and they forget their lines. If they forget their lines, guess what? The play stops dead. There is no play anymore. Because the other actor can't do their line until you say your line. So if you forget your lines, it's all over. And so if it's all over, then the audience goes, what's going on? This is horrible. You lose your job. You never get an acting job again. So your survival as an actor means that you remember the storyline and you remember your lines, which was written for you. Somebody wrote down the lines you're supposed to say. Somebody wrote who you are. You're just buying into what somebody else told you. That's what a good actor does. You're a 3D human actor. You've bought into the storyline. So when you do phase number 2, which is you become aware that I am in a false reality and I am choosing to stop being that, your emotions, your nervous system, your brain, and the people around you are going to go, what are you doing? You have to go back to who you were or you're going to die. You're going to feel like you're going to die. You'll start to think you're going crazy. And that's the beginning. When you start to realize that you're going bonkers, that is the beginning where you know that you can move into a new dimension. You can't go into the new dimension holding on to your 3D reality. So step number 2 is basically realizing that you're nuts and that you're willing to let go of your understanding of 3D sanity and move into 5D. Number 3, initiating transfer of 5D self into current 3D psyche. Okay, so this is a multi-phased process here, what I just read. I'll read it again. Initiating transfer of 5D self into current 3D psyche. That transfer of your 5D self into your current 3D psyche is a multi-phased approach. But in the third phase, you begin that process. And so you begin to trust. It starts with that. You entrust your reality to your higher 5D self. Now, your 5D self can manifest in many different ways. You might have, my 5D self is Mahadeva. So that was a spiritual name that was given to me years ago by, as I look back on it now, a light being, and I had in a dream that I had. And this being came to me and said, "Hello, Mahadeva." And I didn't know, I hadn't heard that name before, and I went and looked it up, and then I put it away for a while. And then as I got deeper into Vedic astrology, I saw that was a really powerful name for me, and that if I took that spiritual name on, that I would begin to transform into that. Now, since I've been having my most recent experiences, I now know that I have a higher 5-dimensional self that isn't trapped by 3D, that isn't trapped by, I grew up in, was born in 1963, grew up in Southern California, was abused, and this and that, and those, all the stuff I went through, and who I am, and my parents. There's a 5D Mahadeva that doesn't have that history, and has all of the same essences that I am, because it's me, but it's without all the garbage, without all the limitations, and in a higher dimension. So what I'm in the process of doing is I am entrusting that being that part of myself, to guide me in my actions, to guide me in where I go, what I do, guiding me to change out of the limited 3D into the 5D. It's a phasic process, but you start the process with just by acknowledging that part of you exists. Now, if you can't see that part of you, then you can worship a deity. You can entrust your life to a deity. Deities are, we all have an 11th dimensional self. And at this stage, it doesn't matter. Don't ask me, well, which deity is me? It doesn't matter. At this point, working with any deity, you're going to be introduced to whatever that is at some point. But just, if you want to understand what does worshiping a deity as opposed to worshiping a 3D God. By the way, Jehovah is a 3D God. It's not a 5D God. 5D gods only have your best interest at heart. And because they're you. So when you begin worshiping a higher dimensional entity like that, then what ends up happening is that entity starts to begin the transfer process of bringing themselves into you and you into them. Okay? I don't know if hopefully that makes sense. You initiate a transfer from 5D into your 3D self, which then raises your vibration up to 5D. Okay, the fourth phase is exploring your limiting 3D programs in your unconscious mind. Now, once you start to shift, you're going to become aware of the trained actions like a trained monkey. Like Pavlov's dog, you have reactions to life. You get insecure when this happens. When people say this, you get your feelings hurt. When, whatever it is, you get angry, you become full of fear, you have a victim mentality, you're manipulative, you sabotage yourself, you try and start a new business, you talk yourself out of it. Whatever it is. In relationships, you don't listen to the other person, you objectify people, or you become a doormat, or you're narcissistic in these ways. These traits will start to rise to the surface, and you won't be able to initially stop it. You'll catch yourself as you're doing these different things that, my God, I can't believe I've lived my life that way. Somebody gives you an opportunity and you talk yourself out of it. I did that numerous times. And when I was younger. So whatever it is for you, you're going to explore the limiting 3D programs in your unconscious mind. Unconscious means you're not conscious of it. So now that you're making this transfer, you will begin to, those unconscious things will start to come to your conscious mind, and then you have the choice to let them go or to keep acting on them. But you realized up until this point, you haven't had any choice in anything that you've done. You've been responding instinctively to your programming, and you thought that you were choosing to get mad at somebody. You thought you were choosing to walk away. You thought you were choosing to do this or choosing to do that. And you never chose anything. It was always chosen for you by your programming in your unconscious mind. And now you're going to start looking at that, and you're going to start chronicling in the things that you do. I get mad when people do this. I get scared when life does that. I manipulate people this way. I sabotage myself by doing that. I emotionally respond this way in these circumstances. You'll figure out your specific ways. But that is the fourth phase, exploring your limiting 3D programs of your unconscious mind. The fifth phase is preparing 3D limiting programs for permanent deletion. So after you've chronicled all the different ways that you respond in all of these negative ways out of your programming that you didn't have any control over, you become aware that these responses need to be deleted from your programming. Your higher fifth dimensional self is going to delete them for you. You are going to say to your higher self, I do this now. And I go, I realize that I'm this, I do this, I have this issue, I have that issue. I'm not going to tell you my personal issues, but I list them to my higher self and I say, I entrust them to you. To take away the things that are blocking me from having the freedom to live in your reality and bring it into my world. So that's what's going to happen. Number 5, you begin preparing your limiting programs for permanent deletion. It's a way, what it means is that you are letting go of them. Because again, these programs were created under a mistaken desire for survival. I gave you the example of, a woman who chases after abusive men because, she had an abusive father, so she was programmed that abuse equals love. So love means survival, so people go after what they think will keep them alive. So she unconsciously chases after abusive men. No matter how much she consciously realizes that, she can't stop herself. It's because that program is about survival. So understand that these programs aren't going to just go away of their own. They're going to fight to stay because your 3D self thinks you need them to survive. Your nervous system, your emotions, your thoughts are all reactions from that. This is why, if you understand, now on a deeper level, why I've been saying for years, stop overthinking things. You guys are thinking things way too much because you think that thinking about things gives you control, and it doesn't. Your thoughts are simply reactions after the fact to your programming. So all these super intellectual people, just wasting your time. So you're going to prepare those limiting programs for permanent deletion. You're going to see them, and then you're going to become aware of your attachment to them, and you're going to realize part of me doesn't want to let go of this. I don't want to let go of my anger. I don't want to let go of my control. I don't want to let go of my victim mentality. I don't want to let go of my, whatever it is. Whatever it is that you do. You're not going to want to let go of it, and you become aware. I don't want to let go of it. I can't let go of it. It's hard. And then you're going to get to the 6th phase, which is deleting the limiting 3D programs and making room for 5D higher self download. So the more of these programmed responses and emotions and thoughts, the more that they are deleted, removed from you, the more room there is in you for the quantum 5D part of you. So bear in mind, the 5D part of you is not different from you. It's not like it's a different person. It's you at your best. It's the authentic you. Remember, we're living in a shadow world. We only have partial access to our true self. The 5D is not some ethereal place. It's more real than this. So you become more yourself. You become more happy. You become more fulfilled. You become more successful. And at this point, you start to see reality change. Your physical body may change drastically. Your physical reality may change. You may all of a sudden have access to resources that you didn't have. You'll have different people will come into your life. You'll have different experiences. Literally, your reality will start to shift. You're literally shifting up to the 5th dimension. You've heard people talk about this, and it's said in a way that's kind of hard to believe, but people talk about this rainbow bridge going from 3D to 5D. This is what we're talking about. That they shift up to a higher dimensional level, and for them, reality shifts. They don't. But the truth is, you're shifting up to a higher level. So do I believe it's possible that there might be a 3D Earth and a 5D Earth? I'm not saying there is or there isn't, but it wouldn't surprise me if that were the case. Would not surprise me at all. So the question is, are you going to do the work to shift and change you? Because we talk about this 5D shift coming, but the truth is the 5D shift is going to come as a result of human beings making this shift either consciously or unconsciously. If you make the shift consciously, then you have a lot better chance of doing it more quickly. And, many of you are spiritually minded people, you're starseeds, you're shamans. I can remember in my 20s that I just did not feel like I belonged in this world, and that when I tried to live according to the rules of the world, everything fell apart. But at the same time, if I tried to live by what I now realize was a shamanic way of living, I felt like I didn't belong, and I was in between worlds, and I was miserable. And now what's happening is, I get to shift into the world I've always wanted to be in. I get to do that. And now it's not some no man's land where I'm all by myself. Now I'm shifting into a world that is populated by beings of light that are immensely full of love and power and beauty. And more people are popping into this reality that we're creating. So you get to be one of those people. So it's important that you understand everything that I give on this channel is designed to help you accomplish those things. The Warrior 90-Day Challenge, it gives you access, as I said, to everything else in the Patreon. It gives you access not only to the Lightning Qigong, but it gives you access to the Manifestation Mastery course. It gives you access to the Interdimensional Meditation course. It gives you access to the Mastery of Shamanism course. And now I've created a new way of people that they can interact with me. And it is called the 6-month Ascension Apprenticeship Program there at the bottom of the picture. You go to thunderwizard.com. You can subscribe to that. I'm only starting off with 10 slots. And it's only for 6 months. So you're not committing for a long time. What's happening now is that I've been working with people for years now. And, after working with me for so many years, either they've decided to move on or I've decided we should move on. But now what needs to happen is a more intensive working with people. Working with people on a more intensive level for a shorter period of time. And so I am offering now this 6-month Ascension Apprenticeship Program, and I'm only taking 10 people. And of those 10 people, for 6 months, we're going to work together. So that means we're going to have one session a month, a live session, and I'm going to be focused on that, on helping you go through each one of those levels. I will be giving you homework to do. I'll be giving you specific actions that you can take. And you'll have, at the very least, at the end of those 6 months, you will have access to a way of living that will shift you from the 3rd dimension to the 5th dimension and will give you the ability to delete your programming and download your true, authentic 5D quantum self, change your reality, and be able to walk that rainbow bridge to the 5th dimension. So anyway, there's that. Go to thunderwizard.com and you can subscribe to the 6-month Ascension Apprenticeship Program. Hurry, there's only 10 slots available. We'll see how long that lasts. All right, so there's more to it than this, but this is at least the first 6 phases. And I guarantee you, if you follow my instructions, you will have a shift. There isn't anybody that hasn't followed my instructions, that hasn't had a massive shift in their life. And now I'm shifting my game up. I'm going out of 3D to 5D. I'm teaching you 5D Ascension tips, 5D Ascension practical things that you can do that will completely, totally change every aspect of you. All right? So you've heard me say, unless you change, you can't shift. Well, I'm going to teach you how to make those changes. And again, I'm just sharing with you what I'm doing that is absolutely, I haven't even begun to be able to document all of the tremendous things that are going on with me. All right, so that's enough for now, guys. Thank you for showing up and watching, and I will see you all very soon. Take care.